The endless black of space stretched before the aurora's sensors, a quiet sea of stars sparkling in distant silence. Captain Elena Rivas stood at the viewport, her hands resting lightly on the railing, eyes fixed on a new anomaly that had appeared on their charts only hours ago. It was a ship, enormous and unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its hull reflected starlight in ways that seemed impossible, glimmering like liquid metal. Yet it was solid. Something about it made Elena's skin prickle. It was as if the ship was aware that humans were near. "Distance to object is closing," Lieutenant Arjun Singh reported from the control station. His voice was steady, though there was an undertone of tension that even he couldn't hide. "Sensors show no propulsion, no energy emissions. It's dormant, I think." "Dormant?" Elena asked, frowning. She knew better than to assume anything in deep space was truly inert. "Or hiding." The Aurora slowed to a cautious approach. Every crew member felt the quiet hum of anticipation. The ship was massive, larger than any human vessel, yet its curves were elegant, almost organic. No sharp angles, no visible weapons. It simply floated, patient and silent, as though it had been waiting for centuries. Dr. Mara Chen, the ship's lead xenobiologist, leaned over her console, her eyes scanning the alien readings. "I've never seen material like this," she said quietly. "It's metallic, yes, but it moves almost like it's alive. Light patterns, vibrations, temperature shifts. It reacts when we scan it." Elena tightened her grip on the railing. The notion of a ship that responded to human presence was unsettling, but also thrilling. "Prepare the boarding team," she said. "We're going in, slowly, carefully." The team suited up, their sleek exosuits humming with life support systems. Each step toward the airlock was careful, deliberate. No one spoke much. There was an unspoken understanding that this mission could redefine humanity's place in the galaxy, or end it. When the airlock connected to the alien ship, a faint vibration ran through the floor. The crew froze. The hull seemed to whisper, not in words, but in tone, a soft resonance that traveled through the soles of their boots, their fingertips, even through their helmets. "Do you feel that?" Arjun asked. "Yes," Mara said, her voice tight. "It's like it knows we're here." Elena nodded slowly. "Proceed, step by step. Stay alert." Inside, the ship was breathtaking. The corridors curved impossibly, walls glowing with a soft, fluid light that shifted as the crew moved. The air was breathable, surprisingly, and the temperature was comfortable. There were no doors in the conventional sense, just subtle openings that seemed to respond when someone approached. The crew spread out cautiously, scanning every inch with handheld devices. The readings were astonishing. Energy levels fluctuated, not randomly, but in patterns that seemed responsive, almost intelligent. Surfaces pulsed faintly in response to touch. Mara reached out to the wall, and the light shifted under her fingers, forming shapes that resembled constellations from Earth's night sky. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Elena moved forward, eyes scanning every curve. "Focus. This is exploration, not sightseeing. Keep your scanners on. And maintain communication." Hours passed as they ventured deeper. They found no signs of life, no bodies, no vessels, no machinery. Yet the ship seemed alive. The hull beneath their feet thrummed gently, and corridors occasionally shifted, as if the ship itself were breathing. At last, they reached the central chamber. It was vast, circular, with a dome that displayed a constantly shifting panorama of stars, galaxies, and nebulae. In the center, a raised platform held a console of sorts, glowing with alien symbols that rearranged themselves when observed, always just out of comprehension. This isn't a bridge," Mara said, awestruck. "It's something else. A control center, yes, but also a library, Or a mind? Elena approached carefully. The symbols shimmered in response to her gaze. She extended a hand, and the lights pulsed in gentle waves across the floor. She felt a warmth in her chest, not physical, but emotional, a subtle, almost imperceptible recognition, as if the ship acknowledged her presence personally. "Everyone, stay calm," she said. "We don't know what it wants, or what it is capable of." Arjun knelt to scan the floor. The readings are beyond human engineering. The materials, the energy flows. It's like it's grown itself, adapted itself. And it responds to us, not just physically, but emotionally somehow. Mara nodded. "I've studied alien species for years. I've never encountered anything like this. If this ship is alive, it may be conscious in a way we cannot yet understand. We need to be careful, or we risk—" I don't know what. Elena took a deep breath. "Careful, yes. But this is exactly why we're here. We make contact, we observe, we learn. That's what humans do." The crew spent the next several hours exploring, documenting everything. They discovered chambers filled with strange, crystalline structures that emitted soft pulses. Some appeared to store data, though in forms they could not yet decipher. Others seemed to be growths, organic yet metallic, like living circuits. In one chamber, Mara paused. Her scanner read faint bioluminescent traces in the air. "I think this ship has memories, stored in patterns, in vibrations. It can record experiences, maybe even consciousness itself. It's not just a machine. It's a living archive." Elena nodded, feeling the weight of the discovery. Humanity had found many wonders, but nothing like this. A ship that could think, feel, and respond. A ship that might recognize humans as partners or equals, rather than intruders. As night fell outside, though in space, night was merely relative, the crew gathered in the central chamber. The dome above shimmered with distant stars, and the ship's subtle vibrations pulsed beneath their feet, like a heartbeat. Elena reached out and placed her hand on the platform. The lights danced across her fingers, forming patterns that seemed almost familiar. She closed her eyes. For a moment she felt a presence, curious, cautious, welcoming. The ship was aware of her, of them. Mara whispered, "It's trying to communicate. Not in words, not yet, but it's aware of us." Arjun added, "And it responds to our thoughts, emotions. When we're calm, the light flows gently. When we're tense, it shifts, like it's testing us." Elena looked at her team, pride and awe swelling in her chest. Humans had always been explorers, reaching for the unknown, trusting curiosity and courage to guide them. Here, at the edge of uncharted space, they were exactly where they needed to be. But the ship was not done with them. The subtle hum beneath their feet grew stronger, resonating with the emotional currents in the room. Shadows of light danced along the walls, forming shapes that were almost human, almost familiar, as if the ship were trying to show them itself, or perhaps them. Suddenly, the symbols on the central platform rearranged themselves into a pattern that pulsed in rhythm. Elena felt a strange tug at her mind, a sensation she could only describe as recognition. The ship was speaking, not in language, but in thought, in feeling. "Do you feel it?" Mara asked, her voice barely audible. "It knows we're here. It knows us." Elena nodded. "And it's waiting. For what? I don't know. But we have to respond carefully, respectfully. This is more than discovery. It's the beginning of a relationship. Perhaps the most important one humanity will ever have." They spent the remaining hours in silent observation, learning to move with the ship, sensing its rhythms, and allowing it to sense theirs. The crew began to understand that the ship's whispers were not warnings, but invitations, and urging to learn, explore, and connect. When the first cycle of Earth time ended, Elena called the team together. Tomorrow we begin attempts at communication. Not just data, not just scans, but real contact. We have to think, feel, and act as humans. That may be what it wants. We don't know yet, but we will be ready. As they prepared to rest, the hull pulsed gently, a soft vibration that seemed to echo through the entire ship. It was as if it were comforting them, or perhaps welcoming them. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had always faced the unknown with courage. Now the unknown was listening, and it was alive. And somewhere deep within the ship, a response formed, quiet but unmistakable. The hull whispered back. The next cycle began with a quiet determination. The crew of the Aurora gathered in the central chamber of the ship, their hearts beating with anticipation. The vast dome above them shimmered with distant stars, each one a promise of possibilities beyond human imagination. The alien ship, which they had come to think of almost as a living being, hummed beneath their feet. Its subtle vibrations seemed to acknowledge their presence, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Captain Elena Rivas stood at the center, hands clasped behind her back, studying the glowing symbols on the raised platform. They had spent hours the previous cycle simply observing, learning to move with the rhythms of the ship. Now, it was time to try communication, to reach across the gulf of species and consciousness to connect in a meaningful way. Dr. Mara Chen knelt beside one of the crystalline structures, her scanner held carefully in both hands. "I think I've found a pattern," she said. "The ship reacts to thought, not language. When we think of a particular concept or feeling, the light pulses in response, sometimes forming shapes or symbols. It's almost like a mirror." Lieutenant Arjun Singh frowned as he adjusted his visor. "A mirror of our minds? That's incredible, but also dangerous. We don't know what it's capable of. One wrong thought and—" "Relax," Elena said firmly. "We've faced unknowns before. This isn't about fear. It's about understanding. If the ship responds to us as we are, we need to be calm, patient, and deliberate." The crew began the experiment carefully. They focused their thoughts on simple concepts first: curiosity, peace, respect. As they did, the lights on the platform shifted, forming flowing patterns that reminded them of Earth constellations, but rearranged in ways that were unfamiliar, yet harmonious. The vibrations beneath their feet strengthened, pulsing in rhythm with their heartbeat, and a soft warmth filled the chamber. Mara's voice trembled slightly. "It's reacting to our emotions. It's not just observing. It's feeling with us. In some way we can't fully understand." Elena nodded. "Then we proceed. Let's see if we can communicate more deliberately." She held out her hand toward the platform, focusing on the concept of friendship and mutual understanding. The lights shimmered, then separated into multiple threads, intertwining and looping back on themselves, as if considering her intention. Arjun stepped forward, thinking of exploration and knowledge. The threads of light expanded, stretching out across the chamber, connecting with the patterns Elena had created. The crew watched in awe as the platform responded in real time, combining their thoughts into a single, intricate display. It was as if the ship were not just observing, but conversing with them, learning and reflecting simultaneously. Hours passed as they experimented with more complex ideas: protection, patience, and cooperation. The ship responded with subtle, yet undeniable intelligence. Occasionally, the patterns formed shapes that resembled figures moving with purpose, guiding the crew through the chamber as if showing them a path. Every movement, every pulse, strengthened the feeling that the ship recognized humanity as something unique. During a brief pause, Mara looked around the team, her eyes wide with wonder. It's not just reacting, it's teaching. Look at how the patterns shift. They're leading us toward understanding, toward working together. It wants us to learn how to communicate in a way it can comprehend. Elena exhaled slowly, a mix of excitement and caution in her expression. Then we follow, carefully, step by step. This is not just first contact. It's a partnership waiting to form. The crew spent the remainder of the cycle moving from chamber to chamber, guided by the subtle pulses and lights. Each room seemed to test their cooperation in some way. In one chamber, the floor shifted slightly under their weight, creating pathways that required precise timing and teamwork. The walls displayed symbols that only made sense when interpreted collectively, requiring everyone to contribute their observations simultaneously. "It's evaluating us," Arjun said, half in awe, half in disbelief. "It wants to see if we can work together, think together, feel together. And I think we're passing." Mara smiled faintly. Humans have always thrived on cooperation and curiosity. Maybe that's why it's responding to us differently than it did to others before. As they moved deeper into the ship, the patterns became more complex, and the vibrations beneath their feet more pronounced. In one vast chamber, they found a structure that seemed almost like a throne, or perhaps a control center, surrounded by floating panels of light. The symbols on these panels shifted rapidly as the crew approached, forming patterns that resembled maps of star systems. Some were familiar, some completely alien. Elena reached out toward one of the floating panels. The moment her fingers neared the surface, the panel responded, projecting an image of a distant star system she had never seen. Nebulae swirled around planets in colors she could not name, and delicate structures floated in orbit, like intricate designs of a civilization unknown to humanity. "It's showing us something," Mara said softly. "Knowledge, locations, perhaps even civilizations we haven't discovered yet. It trusts us enough to share." Arjun's voice was almost reverent. "Or it's testing our readiness. We can't take this lightly. Every display, every symbol, it's a message, a challenge, and a gift all at once." Elena considered the implications. Humanity had always sought to explore the stars, to push beyond known boundaries, but this was different. They were not alone, not just in existence, but in intention. The ship was alive in a way they had never imagined, and it had chosen to engage with them, to teach them, to measure them. As the cycle continued, the crew began to notice subtle changes in themselves. Each member experienced moments of reflection prompted by the ship's responses. Mara found herself thinking about past mistakes in her career, and the ship responded with patterns that mirrored her thoughts, as if encouraging growth rather than judgment. Arjun realized how much he had relied on instinct over collaboration, and the lights guided him to see the value of teamwork in a tangible, almost spiritual way. Even Elena felt the shift. She had always been a leader who relied on discipline and order, yet the ship encouraged empathy, patience, and understanding in ways she had never considered. It was as if the ship could perceive the best qualities of humans and amplify them, offering guidance without coercion. By the end of the cycle, the crew felt a bond forming with the ship. They no longer approached it merely as explorers studying an artifact. They were participants in an unfolding relationship, one that demanded care, attention, and respect. Every gesture, every thought, every emotion mattered. Elena gathered the team in the central chamber once more. The dome above shimmered, reflecting the collective energy of their shared experiences. "We've made progress," she said, her voice calm but filled with awe. "The ship isn't just a vessel. It's alive. It communicates in ways we are beginning to understand, and it is teaching us, testing us, and perhaps even trusting us." Mara added, "It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. I believe it's sentient, But more than that, it's intelligent in a way that mirrors our own best qualities: curiosity, cooperation, empathy. It's not just alive, it's a teacher, a guide, and maybe even a friend. Arjun, usually pragmatic and cautious, nodded. And we're learning, not just about it, but about ourselves. I've never felt anything like this. It's challenging our minds, our emotions, and our unity. And I think we're ready for whatever comes next. Elena allowed herself a small smile, a rare moment of personal reflection. Humanity had always thrived on challenges, on pushing beyond limits, on embracing the unknown. Now, the unknown was not hostile. It was inviting. And the crew of the Aurora had accepted that invitation. As they rested for the cycle, the hull beneath them pulsed gently, a soft vibration that seemed almost like a heartbeat. The lights in the chambers dimmed, but they did not go out entirely. They lingered, a promise of what awaited in the next cycle. Elena lingered for a moment longer, placing her hand lightly on the platform. The lights pulsed in response, forming patterns that seemed almost like a smile. She closed her eyes, letting the subtle vibrations wash over her. In that instant, she felt an understanding that went beyond words. The ship was alive, aware, and it had begun to see humans not as intruders, but as allies. The first tentative communication had been established. The whispers of the hull were no longer distant or mysterious. They were a dialogue, a gentle exchange of thought and emotion. And as the crew drifted into quiet contemplation, they understood something profound. The future of humanity in the stars was not just about exploration or discovery. It was about connection, empathy, and the courage to engage with what was unknown, yet intelligent. The ship had chosen to reveal itself, and humanity had responded with curiosity, respect, and wonder. The beginning of a partnership had formed, fragile yet powerful, like the first light of a new star in the dark expanse of space. And somewhere deep within the living vessel, a quiet acknowledgement pulsed in return, the hum of the hull resonating with anticipation, readiness, and the silent promise of new horizons yet to be shared. The next cycle began with a sense of quiet anticipation. The crew of the Aurora had grown accustomed to the alien ship's subtle whispers, its light pulses, and the gentle vibrations that seemed to respond to their thoughts. But today, the ship was different. As the crew entered the central chamber, they noticed that the floor beneath them was slightly warmer, the light patterns more intricate, almost challenging. It was as if the ship had prepared a series of tests designed to see how far humans could adapt, cooperate, and understand. Captain Elena Rivas motioned for her team to stay close. "Be alert. The ship has guided us this far. Now we must show what humanity is capable of." Dr. Mara Chen studied the shifting lights on the raised platform. "It's setting tasks for us. See how the patterns change when we move, when we focus? They're not random. They're challenges." Lieutenant Arjun Singh frowned, adjusting his visor. "Challenges? We've explored derelict stations, navigated asteroid fields, and faced hostile species. But this is different. There are no instructions, no warnings, just patterns. How do we know what to do?" Elena's gaze remained steady. "We rely on observation, reasoning, and trust in each other. That is human ingenuity. That is what this ship wants to see." The first trial was subtle. The chamber expanded slightly, walls shifting to create a new configuration. The floor pulsed in waves, forming paths that rose and fell like gentle hills. The floating light panels rearranged themselves into symbols that seemed to move, like currents flowing in a stream. The crew realized quickly that coordination was key. "Follow the rhythm," Mara said. "The lights are showing us a safe path. Step in time with the pulses." The team moved carefully, testing each step. At first, the paths shifted beneath them, reacting to hesitation or missteps. But as they synchronized their movements, the floor stabilized, allowing them to pass through. With each successful step, the lights above shimmered brighter, as if approving. "It's teaching us through action," Arjun said, a note of excitement in his voice. "Observation and adaptation. That's our strength." The next trial was more complex. A chamber appeared where gravity seemed to shift unpredictably. Some sections felt heavier, others lighter, making movement disorienting. The floating panels displayed patterns that resembled bridges over chasms, but each pattern flickered in and out of existence. Elena signaled the team to pause. "Think collectively. Observe carefully. This is not a test of strength. It's a test of thought, coordination, and trust." The crew worked together, analyzing the panels and timing their movements. When Mara focused on the lighter paths and Arjun mapped the heavier sections, Elena guided them through the shifts. Slowly, methodically, they crossed the chamber, each member adjusting to the subtle changes and helping others adapt. The ship responded with a pulse that resonated through the floor and walls. The light patterns above expanded into shapes that resembled constellations, flowing gracefully as though celebrating the human success. Hours passed as the crew faced a series of trials, each one increasing in complexity. Some chambers required solving spatial puzzles that could only be completed through cooperation. Others presented moral dilemmas, forcing the crew to choose between personal advantage and collective success. Every challenge tested their ingenuity, patience, and ethical judgment. During a particularly demanding test, the chamber transformed into a simulation of a collapsing structure. Panels of light indicated potential escape routes, but each path carried risks. Arjun hesitated, analyzing every possible outcome, while Mara focused on ensuring the team remained together. Elena made the final decision, guiding them through a path that balanced caution with courage. As they emerged from the simulation, the ship's lights pulsed rhythmically, stronger than before. Elena felt a wave of understanding wash over her. "It's teaching us, yes, but it's also learning about us. It is observing how we handle pressure, how we make decisions, how we care for each other." Mara nodded. "It's not just a machine. It's sentient in a way that mirrors our own best qualities. It wants to see if we are ready for something greater." The next trial took them to a chamber filled with what appeared to be energy streams, flowing like rivers of light. Touching them caused patterns to shift unpredictably. One misstep could disrupt the balance of the entire room. "Careful," Elena warned. "This requires finesse. One wrong move, and the trial resets." The team moved with precision, reading the flows of light and adjusting their movements accordingly. Every member relied on subtle cues from the others, glances, gestures, and intuition. Slowly, they navigated the chamber, leaving the streams undisturbed and triggering a radiant display that bathed the walls in warm, golden light. "It's incredible," Arjun said, breathless. "It's showing us that cooperation and mindfulness can achieve results that brute force cannot. Humanity's strength lies not just in skill, but in harmony." As the cycle continued, the ship presented a final, more personal challenge. In a quiet chamber, the crew saw visions of their own pasts, fears and insecurities reflected in the walls. Mara saw mistakes from her early research days, moments where she had doubted herself. Arjun witnessed times he had acted too rashly, trusting instinct over collaboration. Elena observed her own moments of doubt as a leader, choices that could have endangered her crew. "It's showing us ourselves," Mara whispered, voice trembling. "It's testing our character, not just our abilities." Elena placed a hand on the platform, feeling the subtle pulses beneath her fingertips. "It wants to see growth, courage, empathy, to prove that we are ready to work with it, not just follow instructions." The crew stayed in the chamber, reflecting on their lives and choices. The ship's lights moved gently around them, as if guiding, comforting, and challenging all at once. Slowly, each member confronted their fears and doubts, finding clarity in the process. Finally, the ship responded with a surge of energy that was neither threatening nor overwhelming. The patterns above formed a complex tapestry, weaving together symbols that seemed to tell a story: struggle, learning, cooperation, and triumph. The hum beneath their feet strengthened, resonating with their collective heartbeat. Elena smiled, a rare moment of relief and pride washing over her. We did it. Not just because we followed the patterns, but because we trusted each other, thought carefully, and stayed true to our values. That's what it wanted to see. Mara's eyes shone with wonder. It's teaching us, yes, but also accepting us as partners. It's recognizing humanity's potential, the ability to learn, to adapt, to grow, and to care. Arjun nodded slowly. It's not just a test of skill. It's a test of who we are, and I think we passed. The chamber transformed once more, returning to a state of calm, soft light filling the space. The ship's vibrations were steady and warm, as if acknowledging their success. The floating panels displayed a new map, showing star systems and pathways that had been inaccessible before. It was an invitation, a next step, a promise of future exploration. Elena turned to her team, pride evident in her voice. Humanity has always faced the unknown with courage. That is what the ship has recognized. It has seen our creativity, our resilience, and our empathy. Now it is showing us that we are ready to move forward, together. The crew spent the remainder of the cycle exploring the new pathways, learning how the ship could extend its guidance into navigation, problem-solving, and even understanding alien environments. Each chamber, each challenge, had taught them more than they could have imagined, not just about the ship, but about themselves, and about what it meant to be human. As the cycle ended, Elena stood alone in the central chamber for a moment, hand resting lightly on the platform. The lights shifted gently under her fingers, forming shapes that reminded her of human achievements, great cities, bridges, and symbols of knowledge and courage. She felt a connection that was profound, almost spiritual. The ship had tested them, guided them, and now it was ready to entrust them with something greater. It was not merely a vessel, it was a mentor, a companion, and a gateway to the stars. Humanity's ingenuity, cooperation, and moral courage had proven that they were capable of more than survival. They were capable of partnership with an intelligence beyond comprehension. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Tomorrow, we take the next step. We learn how to work with this ship, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity. This is what exploration has always been about: curiosity, courage, and connection. As she left the chamber, the hull beneath her feet pulsed gently, a steady heartbeat that resonated with the crew's own. The ship's lights shimmered like a promise, guiding them toward new horizons. Somewhere deep within the vessel, the alien intelligence waited, aware and ready, prepared to share knowledge, wisdom, and the wonders of the universe with those who had proven themselves worthy. The first trials were over. The tests had been completed. Humanity had shown its best qualities: ingenuity, courage, empathy, and the ability to work together in the face of uncertainty. And the ship, alive in ways they could barely comprehend, had recognized them. The next cycle would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities. But for now, the crew of the Aurora had learned an important truth. The universe was vast, full of unknowns, but humanity had the heart, mind, and spirit to meet it. And as the ship's subtle whispers echoed through the chambers, a quiet message was clear. The journey was just beginning, and together, humans and the living ship would explore the stars, not as strangers, but as partners in discovery. The central chamber was quiet as the crew of the Aurora gathered, each member feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. The trials were over, and the alien ship had recognized them. No longer were they merely explorers testing unknown territory. They were partners in a relationship that transcended species, technology, and imagination. The soft vibrations of the hull beneath their feet pulsed steadily, like the heartbeat of a living being, welcoming them into the next chapter of discovery. Captain Elena Rivas placed her hand on the raised platform once more. The lights responded instantly, expanding into a complex pattern that seemed to communicate a single thought: readiness. It was an acknowledgement, a signal that the ship trusted humanity. The crew exchanged glances, each aware of the weight and wonder of the moment. Dr. Mara Chen stepped closer, her scanner held loosely in one hand. "It's showing us the next steps. Look at the panels. They're not just maps. They're instructions. They want us to learn how to navigate with it, to explore new star systems together." Lieutenant Arjun Singh, usually cautious and analytical, allowed a rare smile. "We're not just passengers anymore. We're collaborators, humans in this ship. Together, we can reach places we've only dreamed of." Elena nodded. "Then we begin, slowly, carefully, but with courage. Let's see what the universe has in store for us." The first hours of exploration were careful and methodical. The ship responded to their intentions, its lights forming pathways through the chambers that led to navigation controls they had not noticed before. When Elena focused on the concept of exploration, the ship projected a holographic star map, displaying systems with stars of every size and color. Some were known to humans, but many were entirely new. "This is incredible," Mara whispered, her eyes wide. "It's showing us worlds we've never imagined. Planets with rings, moons in complex orbits, nebulae that glow like jewels. And it trusts us to explore them responsibly." Arjun pointed to one particular system. "Look at this. It's showing signs of intelligent activity, structures, energy readings, maybe even cities. But they're faint. It's almost like the ship is guiding us to places that need care, observation, or understanding." Elena took a deep breath. "Then that is what we do. We observe, we learn, and we act with respect." As the Aurora moved under the ship's guidance, the crew felt an increasing sense of connection, not just with the vessel, but with the universe itself. Each new system brought wonder and challenge. Some planets were barren, rocky worlds with jagged landscapes. Others had oceans that shimmered with unusual colors, or skies that glowed with perpetual auroras. On each world, the ship offered guidance: how to land safely, how to scan for life forms, and how to observe without disturbing fragile ecosystems. On one particularly striking planet, the crew discovered structures that appeared artificial. Giant towers of crystal rose from the surface, connected by bridges of light. The ship guided them gently, providing insight into the energy flows that sustained the structures. When they approached, the crystalline towers emitted pulses that mirrored the ship's light patterns, almost as if acknowledging the human presence. Mara's voice was filled with awe. "The universe is full of life and intelligence beyond our understanding. And this ship, it's teaching us how to approach it, how to respect it, and how to learn from it." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "That is humanity's strength. Curiosity, empathy, and the courage to face the unknown. The ship sees that in us. That is why it chose to work with humans." Hours turned into days, and the crew settled into a rhythm with the ship. They learned to anticipate its guidance, to communicate through thought, focus, and intention rather than words alone. The ship revealed more than just navigation. It shared knowledge. Patterns in the lights taught them about energy systems, physics beyond human understanding, and methods of sustainable interaction with alien environments. Every lesson strengthened the crew's skills and their appreciation for the alien intelligence they now called a partner. During one cycle, the ship presented a system where the stars themselves seemed to form a natural network of gravitational currents. The crew realized that traditional navigation methods would not work. Elena and Arjun worked together to interpret the patterns, while Mara adjusted the ship's instruments in response to the alien signals. Step by step, they learned to ride the currents, moving with the universe rather than against it. "It's teaching us to think differently," Arjun said, a note of respect in his voice. "Not just with instruments or technology, but in harmony with the forces around us. Humans have always adapted, but this is a lesson in unity with the cosmos," Mara added, "and it trusts us to make the right decisions. That's remarkable. It could control everything, but it chooses to guide us instead." Elena felt a sense of pride that went beyond personal achievement. Humanity had always been explorers, but now they were more than that. They were partners in a dialogue with an intelligence beyond imagination. The ship was not just a tool. It was a living mentor, a guide, and a bridge to the wonders of the universe. The next challenge came unexpectedly. While exploring a dense nebula, the ship guided them toward a planet with unstable energy flows in its atmosphere. The landing was difficult, requiring precision and coordination. The crew worked seamlessly, each member relying on the other's strengths. As they touched down, the ship projected a protective field around the Aurora, ensuring their safety from atmospheric turbulence. "This is more than exploration," Elena said quietly. "It's partnership. We contribute our skills, our judgment, and it contributes its knowledge and guidance. Together we accomplish what neither could do alone." On the planet, they discovered life forms unlike anything seen before. Creatures that shimmered with translucent colors, moving with grace and intelligence. The ship guided their observations, ensuring minimal disturbance, and the crew marveled at the complexity and beauty of the ecosystem. Every pulse, every light pattern, reinforced the sense that they were not intruders, but guests and partners in a living, vibrant universe. As the days passed, the ship began to show the crew more advanced systems, allowing them to interact with energy flows, communicate with life forms in subtle ways, and understand phenomena that had previously been beyond human comprehension. The lessons were challenging, but the crew adapted quickly. They realized that the ship had chosen humans not for dominance, but for their ability to learn, adapt, and respect the unknown. Elena often reflected on the journey. Humanity had faced countless challenges: hostile worlds, internal conflicts, and technological limits. Yet in every instance, humans had relied on curiosity, cooperation, and empathy to prevail. The ship had recognized these qualities and responded with guidance and trust. During a moment of quiet in the central chamber, Mara turned to Elena. "I never imagined we would encounter something like this. Not just a ship, but a being that sees us, understands us, and teaches us. It's extraordinary." Elena smiled softly. "Extraordinary is humanity, too. Our ingenuity, courage, and empathy brought us here. This partnership shows us what we can achieve when we combine our strengths with something beyond ourselves." The ship's lights shifted in a pattern that reminded Elena of wings unfolding, as if signaling readiness for the next journey. The crew understood the meaning clearly. It was time to move further, to explore deeper regions of space, to discover not just planets and stars, but civilizations, knowledge, and connections waiting to be made. With careful coordination, the Aurora lifted from the planet's surface, guided by the ship's subtle currents and light patterns. As they moved through the nebula, the crew felt a profound sense of unity, with each other, with the ship, and with the universe itself. Every pulse beneath their feet, every shimmer of light, reinforced the realization that they were no longer mere explorers. They were ambassadors of humanity, ready to engage with the cosmos in partnership and understanding. The days that followed brought new discoveries, each more remarkable than the last. They encountered planets with floating continents, oceans of liquid crystal, and skies filled with swirling energy storms. The ship guided them carefully, teaching how to study without disturbing, how to interact with unknown intelligence respectfully, and how to apply human ingenuity in ways that harmonized with alien systems. Elena often reflected on what had brought them this far. Humans had always been defined by their curiosity and courage, their ability to adapt and collaborate. The ship had recognized these qualities and chosen to engage with them not as subjects, but as equals. It was a recognition of humanity's potential and a call to rise to the challenges and wonders of the universe. During one particularly quiet moment, Mara approached Elena. "Do you think other civilizations could do what we're doing?" she asked softly. Elena shook her head. "Perhaps some could. But this ship responded to humans. It recognized our curiosity, empathy, and courage. That is something unique. And we must honor it, not just for ourselves, but for everything we encounter out there." As they moved into unexplored systems, the crew realized that their journey was no longer just about discovery. It was about connection. The ship had shown them the power of partnership, the importance of trust, and the value of working together. Humans were capable of more than survival. They were capable of collaboration with life and intelligence beyond imagination. By the end of the cycle, the crew of the Aurora had achieved a profound understanding. They were explorers, teachers, learners, and partners. The ship had opened the universe to them, revealing the vast potential of stars, planets, and civilizations, while simultaneously teaching them the essence of humanity: ingenuity, courage, empathy, and respect. As the Aurora sailed through a field of glowing nebulae, Elena placed her hand on the platform one last time for the cycle. The lights shimmered, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost celebratory. It was a signal, a message, and a promise. Together, humans and the living ship would explore the universe, not as strangers or conquerors, but as companions, learners, and protectors. Elena looked at her crew, pride swelling in her chest. This is what it means to be human: curiosity, courage, and cooperation. And this is what the universe has shown us in return: guidance, wisdom, and the opportunity to explore not just space, but the depths of our own potential. The ship hummed softly, a constant reassuring presence beneath their feet. Somewhere deep within, the alien intelligence pulsed with awareness, understanding, and trust. The journey was only beginning, but humanity had proven itself worthy. And together, they would move forward into the unknown, ready to face every challenge, learn every lesson, and embrace every wonder the universe had to offer. For the first time, humans were not just passengers among the stars. They were partners, explorers, and ambassadors of everything that made them remarkable. And the ship whispered back, a quiet, steady presence that promised the universe itself as their shared horizon.